Okay, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Sorry for being about 15 minutes late. But we're gonna make that time up. You never make time up, can you?
You did it, you jinxed it.
So I believe we had our adequate notice already, right, Mr. Truba? We did a roll call.
I think though, is Natalie, is Miss Tortorella on?
Yes. So
Yes,
we're
I'm
gonna do a
here.
roll call?
Okay, I just want to make sure. So everybody's, no, we don't need to. I'll
Okay,
grab her
okay,
now.
all right.
Thank you, Natalie.
How you feeling, Natalie?
Better, thank you. Yeah, better today.
Okay, I think we'll go to the president's report. So one thing I do want to share is that we had our shared services discussion with myself, Jim, Irene, and Tina with the team at the township. And we kind of talked about a lot of the things that aren't memorialized. That's how this whole thing kind of came to being, that a lot of the shared services that we have, that we might be doing for them and things that they might be doing for us aren't necessarily memorialized. And so we're trying to get a better accounting of everything. And then we did bring up some other shared services that we think were in the mix that we wanted them to consider. So our current plan is that somewhere on or around that first week of December, we're going to get back together with them and we're going to discuss their accounting of the shared services, and then we're going to see where that kind of takes us.
Great.
So that's where we kind of are. All right. I think that's all I need to have on the president's report. Jim, would you like to do the superintendent's report?
I sure would, Jeff. So this evening, what you've all been waiting for, we have our assessment presentation. Ms. Weldon is here for her annual discussion of our assessments. This would be primarily the NJSLA, which was taken last spring, and of course also AP, and I think you have access in DLM as well. So you're going to go painstakingly through all 92 slides, right?
I will do my best
5 minutes
to
per slide.
summarize it for everyone. I know you like to read everything, so put it all in there. I'll do my best to summarize what's here. Okay, thank you so much. Good evening. As Dr. Spankwitz just said, Marianne, you can advance to the next slide. I will be presenting tonight on NJSLA, Access for ELLs, our dynamic learning maps, also known as DLM, our advanced placement exams, and the SAT. You can advance. Okay, the next, good thing I have it here. I can still, might need to refresh. The NJSLA returned last year for the first time in 2 full school years. It was not administered in the spring of 2020 or the spring of 2021, but it did return last year in the spring of 2022. And we are looking at these results for the first time now in a few years. You want me to keep going through my slides or should I wait for, I'm not sure why.
I don't know how much.
Some highlights of, okay, there you go. Great, okay, that's good right there, perfect. All right, so as we review all of the assessments, NJSLA, DLM, Access, SAT, AP, we take a look administratively, we look at our results, we look at areas of strength, we look at areas of focus, areas of concern, we look at areas that we believe we've been working towards to see if we have made any improvements there. So if I could summarize the areas that we feel are of concern that we still need to do our work, we have our work cut out for us here. There was some concern about the results in grade 3 at OTES, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, particularly in math, grade 9, ELA and Algebra 1, and grade 11 science. And overall, throughout all of our subgroup performance, we put a high priority on our Black and African American results, special education, and English language learners as areas that we do need to dig deeper. We do need to try different approaches, and we do need to keep working in those areas. We're not satisfied with those results. Okay, if you could advance. some areas that we were pleased to see were the overall in all of the areas on the NJSLA, including all of the ELA subsections, math and science subsections. Ocean Township was ahead of the state in 12 out of 18 areas. Wanamassa School in grades 3 and 4 in ELA outperformed the state by quite a bit. We were pleased to see that. The TOIS performance on Algebra 1 was also strong. 4th grade performance on Access was very strong, and more students performed advanced on the DLM compared with last year. We did not have any students scoring in the advanced range last year, so we were pleased to see that growth. And our AP performance has improved over last year, and our SAT mean score is above the state and the total group, and just a tiny bit above our performance last year. So those were things that we celebrate and continue to work to improve, but we were happy to see the gains we had there. All right, focusing, now we're going to go through each test. I'm going to start with NJSLA. You can advance. NJSLA was taken in the fall at the high school because we are on that block schedule. Our students take the test in fall block and also in the spring at all schools. In the spring, it's grades 3 through 8 and by and 9th grade English and by course in mathematics. Okay, you can advance. No, I'm sorry, stay right there. Just back up one slide for me, Marion, please. Thank you. Okay. And again, I did mention this. This was the first time in 2 years that we were taking the NJSLA. So it was first time for our 3rd graders, first time for our 4th graders. 5th graders were taking it for the second time, hadn't taken it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. First time for, no, they took it as 3rd graders as well. Okay, so that's why it wasn't given. You can advance through these next few slides. These are just the participation numbers at each level.
Ms. Weldon, those minus numbers, minus 433 and minus 46.
Less, that's how many students less.
Fewer. But
Fewer.
if we go back up, not the science. I maybe no, okay. So 433 fewer students took the math?
Right, if you can see that Algebra 2, the test has changed over time and the requirements has changed and making it a graduation requirement has changed. So the majority of our Algebra 2 and geometry students did not take it this time because they didn't need to.
They didn't need to.
They didn't need to.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is just participation numbers. Yes, Mrs. Gilman points out that there are discrepancies, but that is just because of the requirements of the test and how those have changed. Okay, the performance levels for ELA and math are, it's on a 5-point scale, 4 and 5 being the best scores, meaning that a student has met or exceeded expectation. And on the next slide, you'll see that science is scored on a 4-point scale, top 2 scores 3 and 4, meaning that a student is scoring proficient or advanced proficiency. Okay, and that's really what we hone in on. I have all of the results here for you, but we do hone in on students who have met and exceeded expectations because those are our goals. Our goals are to help every single student meet or exceed grade level expectations. Okay, English language arts. What you're looking at here on this next slide are the results by each level of our district compared to the state of New Jersey. Our district is highlighted in blue. The state is right next to it. You're looking at level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. It's a comparison slide to show you the percentage of students scoring at each level, performing at each level. Okay, there's a lot of information on this slide. So if we move to the next one, you will see I hone in on those 2 areas I talked about, meeting and exceeding levels 4 and 5. Okay, and the first couple columns there are just copied from the slide before it. But if you draw your attention over to the right of this slide, the last 2 columns on the right, this is the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations for Ocean Township in blue, highlighted in blue, and for the state, the far most right column. And you will see that in grade 3, Ocean Township is above the state. In grade 4, we are above. In grade 5, above. In grade 6, just below. Grade 7, a few points below. Grade 8, we're slightly above, and grade 9 below the state average. Okay. All right, moving on to the next slide. For this area here, I break down the 3 elementary schools. Okay, again, OTES, grade 3, 29% of the students scored 4 or 5. Wanamassa 76% and Wayside 46% for a district average of 48%, which is above the state at 42. But as you can see, OTES here is below the state. I mentioned that on my first slide about areas of focus. If you look at grade 4, OTES scoring 55%, meeting or exceeding, Wanamassa 71, Wayside 55 for a district average of 59, which is above the state at 49. So in that area, all 3 schools above the state average. Okay, next slide, please. Going into mathematics, looking at the same information. Again, you have our performance versus the state performance at every level, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a side-by-side comparison. Okay, if you advance to the next one, please. Now we're honing in on meeting and exceeding expectations. And again, if you draw your attention to the right of this slide, you'll see Ocean Township in blue there against the state in the far right column. Grade 3, Ocean Township 54% above the state at 45. Grade 4, Ocean Township at 55% above the state at 39. Grade 5, 49 above the state at 36. Grade 6, below the state, 27% to 31%. Grade 7 above, 39 to 34. Grade 8, and just a reminder that this is grade 8 mathematics students. We have a number of students in 8th grade who took Algebra 1, but this row right here is focusing on that 8th grade math class. 10% of the class met and exceeded expectations, while 15% of the state did. So we fell below there. Algebra 1, 35% of the students met and exceeded expectations, while 34% of the state. And in geometry, 45% versus the state at 43%. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, just again, comparing the schools now for mathematics, OTES at 30%, Wanamassa at 64, Wayside at 64, the district for an average at 54% above the state at 45. But again, OTES, an area of concern where we want to focus in our attention on what may be causing that disconnect there. Grade 4, OTES 43%, Wanamassa 50, and Wayside School coming in at 65% of students meeting and exceeding expectations for a district average of 55% above the state at 39%. So again, we celebrate some of the successes of Wayside School, Wanamassa School, but have some concern over performance at OTES. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is comparing the Algebra 1 data. At the intermediate school, we had 94% of students who took Algebra 1 in 8th grade, scoring 94% of students scoring 4 or 5. At the high school, we had 15% of students. These were students who took Algebra 1 in 9th grade or beyond, and for a district average of 35, slightly above the state at 34. Obviously, we focus in on that the algebra results at the high school, to look at what other supports are necessary to help our students there meet with greater success. But pleased with the intermediate school performance. They did a very nice job there in 8th grade. Okay, next slide. Science. The NJSLA Science, you can advance, is given in grades 5, 8, and 11. So just at the intermediate school and the high school. Again, you're looking at similar information, all 5 levels of performance, the district versus the state. And if you advance, Marianne, now we'll hone in on scores of 3 and 4, because remember, science is on a 4-point scale, 3 being proficiency, proficient, and 4 being advanced proficiency. Okay, and the columns over to the right, Ocean Township, grade 5, 32%, proficient or advanced proficient against the state at 26, 8th grade, 17% against the state at 16%, and grade 11, 21% of Ocean Township students against the state at 29%. As I noted earlier, grade 11, an area of concern, and just trying to diagnose a little bit about how the students approach that assessment and what we need to do differently to meet with greater success there. Okay, you can advance. Okay, the next slides show our subgroup performance. I've done an overall percentage of meeting and exceeding for all language arts tests, grades 3 through 8 and 9, all together. You're looking at the different subgroup performance here. You have female, and you're looking at percentage numbers of students who have met or exceeded expectations. So when we bring the entire population of test takers together, you have 51% of females meeting or exceeding, 47% of males, 37% of Hispanic or Latino, 69% of Asian students, 24% of Black or African American, 62% of white, 36% of students with 2 or more races, 31% economically disadvantaged, 16% of students with disabilities, 11% of English language learners, for an overall 52% of the total population. Okay, and that's what each of the next few slides looks the same. It's giving you the same subgroup data, but it dives into different subject areas. The next one is an overview of mathematics, those same subgroups. And then you have the overview of science, the overall total population. And then when we get into the next slides, we're going to dive into English at each grade level. So you're looking here at the grade 3 subgroup performance for English language arts. Grade 4. Now, I just want to, if you could stop on grade 4 for a moment, please. I just want to draw your attention where you see no column and no number, there were not enough students to report. Okay, if you come to a graph that has a 0, that means there were 0% of students scored 4 or 5. But if you see no column and no number, there were just not enough students to report, as shown here on the grade 4 English language arts subgroup slide. Okay, so if you scroll through grade 5, similar here, we did not have enough to report in 2 areas. Grade 6, 7, similar information, all there for you to see. And then I provide the same information in mathematics, grade by grade. And as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, the areas that we put, although we look at all areas, and we look at all areas by subject, by grade, and different supervisors and different teams of teachers will dive in to those, overall, as a district, Black and African American students, special education, and English language learners, there was a trend there with performance that we would like to see improved, that we were not happy with. So those are the takeaways from those subgroup slides. Which brings us to slide 49, access for ELLs.
Can we look at the science for grade 8? Come back for 1 second, Ms. Weldon. It's, I think, 2 slides back. Okay, that's science 11, science 8. Yeah. Ooh. What's up there? 17%.
And the state average is 16%.
Right, which is 16.
16%. Okay, well, I'm not seeing that on here.
That was in the beginning. Those were the percentages that I showed at the beginning.
Both are really not.
Yeah, they're not, it's not great, but it is slightly above the state,
I
and
mean,
it's a newer test, and I'm sure, we'll continue to work both at the state level.
General Science, is it a specific
Well,
science?
it's the standards for 8th grade primarily. That would cover 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Yeah.
6th, 7th, and 8th grade science?
Yeah, it's given in grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11. So it's more of those benchmark years, similar to previous testing that we used to take at those levels, like NJASC and GEPA and HESPA and all those things.
Yeah.
The science right now is at grade 5, 8, and 11 versus math and ELA that's given at every grade level. So,
That could be part of it. Could be. Thank you.
yeah.
We are.
um,
We are.
Okay, so going on to access for ELLs.
Can we take questions on just this part? Maybe break it out on
Yeah, I mean,
by
yeah,
assessment?
that's okay, yeah.
So that we don't have to.
Sure.
I mean,
Is that-
Oh, sorry, I
is
shouldn't
everyone
answer. I
open
shouldn't
to that?
speak. I'm
yeah, that's
sorry.
okay, yeah.
It was so for. I'm worried about our grade 9 students, because it was brought to my attention that those are the students that their last full year of school was was 6th grade, right? Now they're here and they're in a full year of school for the first time. And I think that shows,
Last year was a full year.
last year was a full year with no virtual,
No virtual.
it's all blending together.
Yeah,
No virtual.
Sorry.
Right.
So
masks, but no virtual. I think we only had one school for 1 day, 2 days on
Yeah.
virtual last year.
that's like the area though, that like is really standing out to me is our grade 9 students, because if you look at the percentage that were at level 4, it was 29 when compared to the state is 36. Level 5, I think it was 12, 3, and it was 12 for the state. And then if you, that breakout for algebra 1 at the high school, which is, I believe, usually grade 9, correct?
Algebra 1 is given in our district in grade 8 and grade 9.
Right, so I apologize. So
That's
for-
okay.
For our students that are on a more propelled curriculum, they take it in grade 8, but the rest of the population is set to take it at grade 9.
Mhm.
Is that a
That's
correct
correct.
understanding of it? That's like where I worry is that grade seems to be really struggling with the transition from the pandemic. Am I the only one seeing that? And is the school, is the administration or the district kind of identifying that and starting to see if there's a way that we can do some intervention with that grade?
Yeah, I mean, well, and we have, I mean, I will tell you that I think some of these results as it relates to grade 9 are not necessarily pandemic related. Our
Okay.
ninth grade performance, particularly in math, has been an issue, I think, for a while, for a variety of reasons that we've discussed, that we've discussed here. And we have done a lot of things to address that issue. And I think as we did that, then the pandemic hit. And I think that certainly kind of put a squash on that a little bit. I mean, Ms. Kasuga, you're here. Do you mind kind of?
I think
And
that,
if it's not pandemic related, like, do we know?
no, I
we have
think
not
that what
yet?
you said is accurate for NJSLA performance. I would not say overall that it's accurate for 9th grade performance in all other areas of their education. I think that we have traditionally struggled with 9th grade Algebra 1 results, and we continue to look and try different approaches to make progress in that area. And we have not succeeded yet. And we need to keep working at it, and we need to try different things. We believe that some acceleration things that we're doing at the intermediate school will, in a number of years, hopefully start to pay off at the high school level, while we also use intervention approaches at the high school level to fix the problem in the moment for the current students, and also change the system for the future. But we continue to not meet with success, and that is an absolute area of concern where we need to focus in. I think that these students, when you look at these test results, you have to look at it two ways, as real hard facts, and what do we do with that? And also that some of the students took it in the fall when there was a lot of question as to whether or not they would definitely have to take it or not. We were still wearing masks. We were priming up. COVID was heating up again. There were different different factors that were affecting, I think, the high school performance. The graduation requirement was changing, whether or not students would have to pass an 11th grade test. They sort of were going into it thinking this test isn't going to matter. I'm going to have to pass an 11th grade test to graduate high school. Then they changed that. So now the 11th grade test was just counted as a field test, which I'll get into in a little bit later on in this performance. So I think sometimes the 9th grader came to this test in a mindset not ready to do their best. I don't know if Ms. Kazuba, you disagree with that statement or not, but I think sometimes that is what happens at the high school level. It's not an excuse, it's not acceptable. It is a factor that we have to work through to continue to impress upon our students and our families how seriously we need to take this test, because it does reflect on our district, but sometimes it does not reflect on them individually. And so they do not bring to it the level of seriousness or effort that we would like to see. That being said, we have traditionally had struggled with Algebra 1 in 9th grade. I think, I can't answer that question. I don't know about the rest of the state. I mean, our combined average is above the state, but our high school average is far below, and we do need to work on that. So no, Dan, I think the facts and the data show that no, that's not true in the rest of the state. And that's a problem for us that we absolutely have to continue to address. I don't want to give the impression that we haven't been addressing it, but what we've been doing has not been enough.
Alex, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah.
Poor Miss Weldon probably thinks I'm gonna like ask 1,700 questions, but maybe like 11.
Give me a number. Now go ahead.
Yeah. And you know, I always appreciate all the data and how you interpret it and how you know, present it is, you know, a layperson's explanation. So I appreciate it. And I will get to the AP stuff later when you go over that. So I have a couple of comments about our comments for OTES, how they're performing. And then I also have some comments about the middle school and math. I respectfully disagree with us saying OTS is a problem area. I think for the 2 years I've been on this board and the 3 years prior when I came to all these meetings, OTS's scores were significantly lower than the other two schools, and they still are.
Mhm.
However, what you don't see in your presentation is previous years. So I looked up 2018 and 2019. I don't know if my colleagues did this from the stuff that I sent them as well. And quite honestly, OTES went up a few in the exact spots that we're saying are problematic. And I'm almost a little more concerned with Wayside's going down over since 2018 and 2019. Their decrease in scores is bigger than OTES's. So I think it's a little unfair, and I know everybody thinks that I like only concern myself with OTES, but we finally made some inroads in changing the size of that school's classrooms. We moved around some teachers that were succeeding in some other schools. We moved them to Dow. We just this year nixed those class size plans, which I think we're finally making inroads. So I think that's going to be a huge detriment. So I do think that it's not as bad as it seems for Dow kids, Dow teachers. You know, we went from in 2019, ELA and Dow is your more concern over math. So ELA at Dow, we went from 25 in 2018 to 27 in 2019 to 29 this year. Well, Wanamassa went from an 80 to a 72 to a 76. Wayside went from a 52 to a 53 to a 46. So I just hope, you know, my fellow board members also take this into consideration. I think we were doing something right. Dare I say finally for OTES, and I'm really concerned that we kind of flip-flopped and moved away from some of the gains we made, some of the changes we went from that school.
What about the comparison with the state in previous years? That's like the delta.
Well, I mean, there's no question that Dow is the underperforming school out of all three. There's no question.
Right.
But I think by not celebrating and figuring out, well, what did we do over the last 3 years, and 2 of them during a pandemic, that made some minute, which three numbers for a 29 might not seem big, but that kind of is. That's 10%, you know? But, you know, Wanamassa going from like 82 to a 76. I don't know what the percentage of decrease is. So I know you've like crunched a million numbers in this, but would you agree? Like, I don't want people hearing this tonight saying like, okay, well, we have some problems with overall math in the district, which we do. And I know you've already talked about that. We've talked about the middle school, but then it's almost like Dow still is struggling, folks. But I'm encouraged, quite frankly. And I think the teachers over there, we're still not where we need to be, but I don't think we should.
If I may,
I'm sorry.
I think encouraged is a great word.
Yeah.
I think particularly in grade 4, I think those percentages are extremely encouraging.
Mhm.
While Dow's numbers are lower than the other 2 schools, particularly in math, all 3 elementary schools in 4th grade were above the state average, which I think is a really encouraging development. I think 3rd grade for us, while there was some growth there, I think is still an area of focus because there is quite a discrepancy between the other 2 schools.
Sure.
And so I agree with you. I think we should celebrate the growth. But I think when we look at area of focus, I think that's, you know, Ms. Weldon, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you're kind of saying, you know, we don't want to take away from the growth, but that's still an area that we think is far below where it should be compared to not just the other 2 schools, but to the state as well. But I think we look at this data and look at Dow Avenue, and I think we can glean some really great strides that we've seen over there over the last couple of years, which I do believe is a product partly, and we'll see, because I think the class sizes are not significantly different than they were. So I don't know.
I disagree.
Really, I don't believe it's going to be a significant issue there with new class sizes. I think the instructional approach and the interventions, we've had them in place longer than any other school. And I think you absolutely have seen the work that those individuals have done and the kids, what they've done. as
Amy,
well.
you want to ask a question?
I don't know how it's just done.
I think you wanted to make more of a statement.
I just want to talk about math at the middle school. So if you want to go,
I just.
Yeah, go ahead.
literally have a quick Question. Back to what John was asking about with the ninth grade algebra. Is this year, meaning 2022, 2023, the first year, or is last year the first year that we implemented that full year algebra one? Didn't we implement like a new full year algebra one class? No.
There has
Did we
been one
talk
for
about-
some time,
We did that a few years back.
Oh,
but no,
It's been
it's
a
not
number
the
of
first time,
years. That was one of the interventions we put in place.
which I'm not sure that would necessarily impact the results, but that again is about for the district. It would make a difference for individual students
Right.
more so than overall district performance, small number to make an impact. No, I appreciate your comments, and I think I come to these presentations with the mindset of being very clear and not sugarcoating information and to point out the areas where we still, I don't want anyone to think that we don't take this, and I collectively say we, meaning the entire administrative team, the teachers that teach these subjects at these grade levels, we go over these things painstakingly and not just one time at the first meeting. And then at the second meeting, we look at the next layer of it. And then we talk about interventions, and then we meet again and they talk about how did those interventions work and do we see progress, and we use Linkit as a mirror to how we'll do on NJSLA, and we analyze those results. So I think I like to be clear about the results without sugarcoating it, but I appreciate your comment about the growth. And I hope in the beginning that I did emphasize grade 3, because I do think grade 4 at OTS is very encouraging. And I think that overall, our elementary performance is very encouraging. And for about 5 years now, we have redesigned the complete way we instruct in literacy, in mathematics, the way we provide intervention. We have done, the teachers at those levels and the students have moved mountains to change the way we deliver instruction, the way we retest, the way we reassess ourselves, the way we try, we work on skills that we are weak in, and then test again and analyze our results and keep working towards grade level goals, grade level standards, grade level academic goals. And I think we would have seen this sooner, but we did not have the test to show us. So it is nice to have some data to show us that we are making small gains in the right direction. And this redesign that we brought to the elementary level about 5 or 6 years ago is starting to pay off. We're starting to see that teacher practice has improved greatly. And the ability to be a practitioner of teaching academic standards, academic skills, the teachers know how to do this, and they are starting to do it better and better each year. And when we look at all of this, we think, okay, these are some areas where we know how to fix this, I believe. We just have to dive in deeper and look at the students, look at the programming, look at the curriculum, where we don't see the success or the performance we want, something was amiss. So what was that? Let's get back in there. Let's figure it out, because there is a formula. And I think we're better at delivering on that than we were in the past. So I'm pleased and encouraged, but I certainly don't want anyone to think that we think our work is done. We don't.
absolutely.
Okay.
Sure, you have some specific questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have one question. Do we ever consult tutors of our students just to see like, hey, what are you looking at, or do you see as the challenges that, kids are having with math?
So in no formal way do we do that. I certainly have had conversations where people want to remain anonymous or want me to know certain information, and I take that and I investigate and use that and look into it and bring it up to the supervisory team, and we would use that information if we had it, but we have no formal way of surveying, or we do not, I should say, formally survey student tutors.
Is that something we would consider, or?
I mean, I'm not sure how we would ask for who are your tutors, give us their information, their contact. I'm not sure that we would do something like that. I would have to, I think we put a lot of value in what the teachers see in the classroom and also what this data tells us, not just what the teachers see, because I think we talk about this all the time with teachers. Teachers, most of the time, and we want them to do this, they lead with their heart. They lead with their instincts and their protective nature of students, and those things are excellent. But you have to balance that out with sometimes the real data. So I'm not sure that we would survey tutors.
Okay.
Okay, Alex.
I had my, so my second question touching on middle school and math. I loved what you said about we've kind of revolutionized, for lack of a better word, how we teach and how the students are learning in elementary school. I think we need to do something in the middle school. I think the block system is absolutely not working, and I hope this board maybe considers that. Our scores, I think, are reflective of the fact that our students are not having English and math every day. And I think it's encouraging that we are doing the pink schedules on Wednesday. But when I take a look at the math, and I do think math seems to be our biggest problem as a district. I see 5th and 7th grade doing better at the middle school for math. 7th doing even better than 5th, I think. The 6th and the 8th is pretty bad, especially in the subgroups. But I wanted to bring to light, the 7th grade seems to be, their numbers are quite higher amongst in the subgroups. So when we see successes like that, what are some of the things that you guys actually do? Do you go to those teachers? I don't know if there's 6, if there's 12 7th grade math teachers. Do we say, what are you doing that might be different in this class that's different in our 8th grade math, which subgroups were pretty bad. They were pretty bad. So is there a sharing, a thought sharing? Is there, might we, so that's a question. Is there a thoughts sharing, and how do our, the teachers share amongst their peers? And then also, are we looking hard at this block system?
So a couple of things. Number one, the supervisors look at all of the above of what you asked for. There's also something known as evidence statements that the supervisors get that show how we did at each standard. So we look across the standards to see, did certain classes meet the standard? Did certain classes fall below the standard? Is the curriculum the cause of that problem or success? Is the instruction? Is it the makeup of the class? What is it? And then what do we do about that? So we look at that. We dive a little bit deeper on that. We also look at other data pieces like report card data and local assessment data, which sometimes does not match this. So a class may do well on this, which is excellent, but then struggle to have a high passing average, report card average, which is also concerning to us. So we look at all of those pieces together and try and diagnose the problem and then try and intervene where we see necessary. I agree with what you said about if what we put in place at the elementary is working, it seems like there needs to be something like that at TOIS, and we are moving in that direction. I think the key pieces that made the difference at the elementary level were instructional coaches and full-time interventionists, and the change to the job description of interventionists. We have some part-time and full-time interventionists, both excellent practitioners that are working very specifically on skill gaps of students instead of what they used to work on years ago, which was just supporting the curriculum. So instead of just giving a one-size-fits-all to all students, we are looking at individual student success, and we are prescribing them an academic intervention plan to meet that student's needs. We have brought in interventionists now at TOIS. We look for ways to bring in instructional coaching. We're not always able to do so in budget, with budget, but we do look at that as a possibility. But we think the intervention piece is critical, and we're moving in that direction at TOIS. We already have that. I think it is unfair to say that the block is not working, and or that block scheduling would not ultimately help in this area specifically. When you go to more traditional scheduling, you end up with more teacher-directed instruction, less student engagement, less student actually engaging in the content and having time to try it out and work through problems, work through skills in front of a teacher, right? There's time for the teacher to review homework, demonstrate how to do a skill, assign homework, and go home. That's what you have time for in a traditional schedule. In a block schedule, you have time to work together, to work through the content. I think it's fair to say, though, that the intermediate school still has quite a bit of work to do in designing that block. To be fair, quickly after we went to block, we also had a pandemic where everyone either was home or back in school in rows facing front, staring at the teacher, not interacting with their peers. So I don't think that model of learning is successful. I truly do not. I think when you interact with your peers, when you collaborate, when you work on projects, when you work through problems to a solution, you embrace the content far more than you do when you listen to someone tell you about it. So I think we need a little time to find that right formula and to get that working well at the intermediate school. And I think in some classes it works already very well, but it's not widespread across the district yet, across that school, and we're still working on that.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
very
it's okay, can we move on, because we're about halfway through, right? And then I want to make sure we can get the public comment around this kind of stuff before it gets too long.
Okay.
I'm hot. I'm very
I'm going
hot.
to move forward to
Thanks.
access
Thanks.
scores.
93 pages.
Perfect. Thank you, Marianne. Okay, so the access test is given to ELL students. You can advance. Our ELL students take this test every winter in all 5 schools. The access test is scored on 6 levels. Level 1, entering, emerging, developing, expanding, bridging, and reaching. You can advance, please. Okay, just to interpret, when you're looking at a score, a score is given on that 6-point scale, but it is given as a decimal. The whole number reflects the proficiency level, and the number after the decimal reflects how far the student has progressed within that level. For example, a student with a score of 3.7 is at a proficiency level 3 and over halfway toward achieving proficiency level 4. Okay, so when you see some of these scores, you'll understand what they mean. A score of 4.5 makes a student eligible for exit from the program. Doesn't mean they always will exit, but in many cases, if they score 4.5, they are eligible to be exited from the program. Okay, next slide, please. This was our participation in access for all of our ELL. So these are our ELL numbers at each grade level across the district. Next slide, you'll see that we had 215 students in grades K through 12 who took the test. Our most common score range was developing 3.0 to 3.9. We had 40% of our students scoring there, and next highest would be 24% at expanding. We had a highest score of 5.9 and a low score of 1.2. Again, with access scores, and I've said this in years past, sometimes it is difficult to look at this for comparative purposes because you never know what level the students are entering the program. Right? So some years we may have students who are, a majority of students who are towards the end of their time in ELL. Sometimes we may have a majority of students who are entering the program. So results do vary based on that population. If you could please advance. This current year, you're looking at the percentage of scores that were greater or equal to 4.5. Again, that is the score to exit the program. And I said at the beginning, we were very pleased with our 4th grade performance because 67% of the students reached a 4.5 or higher. And you see the other grade levels, that was the percentage of students meeting 4.5 or higher. Next slide, grade 5, 17%. At grade 6, we did not have any students scoring 4.5 or higher. There was not enough students at grade 7 and 8 to report. And so the next slide you're looking at, if you could advance, is the high school, where we had enough students to report, 8% performing 4.5 or higher at 9th grade, 0 at 10th grade, 0 at 11th grade, and 19% at 12th grade, meeting that cut score. Okay, please advance. We did have 10% of our population earn the criteria to exit the program this year. They will be closely monitored and supported in the general ed program. Okay, we continue to look for ways to support our general education teachers in meeting the needs of all English language learners in all content areas. This is something that the supervisor, we have a new supervisor this year, Ms. Villa, and her team of teachers worked very hard to help provide professional development to the rest of the staff in all schools. And they've already started this school year on the first PD day and the faculty meetings in September to provide guidance, direction, how-tos, and very specific examples of ways that general education teachers can work to meet the needs of their ELL students in their classes. Okay, last year we had 24 students earn the seal of biliteracy upon graduation. 7 of those students had been in the ELL program at some point in their education here at Ocean Township. Okay, so we celebrate that achievement for them. Next slide, please, is the dynamic learning maps. Okay, dynamic learning maps is the alternate assessment given for special education students with the most significantly cognitive disability. Okay, these are students for whom the NJSLA is not appropriate. Okay, we give this assessment and the results help us understand how a student is progressing in their program. Next slide. The students are scored on 4 levels: performance levels, emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. Okay, next slide, please. We had 27 students participate in the DLM, including 12 of our out-of-district students. The students participated in grades 3 through 8 and 11. Every grade level has less than 10 students. That's why we do not report the results by grade level, but we do provide you with district-wide performance. So if you could advance, please. And as I said at the beginning, last year, we did not have any students scoring in the advanced range. Okay, but we were pleased to see that this year we did. So you see first ELA, the green is emerging, blue approaching, red at target, and orange advanced for ELA, math, and science. Okay, moving on. Go into the AP results. Should I keep moving? Okay. Okay, next slide here, advanced placement students. As you know, we take very seriously the desire to afford any student the opportunities to take an AP test if the desire is there. We work hard to recommend students for AP classes, but also allow students to take AP classes or ask to take AP classes even if they have not been recommended for it, because we believe that a student making that choice, that commitment of rigor, should be given and afforded that opportunity. Okay, the AP exams were $96, and the district does pay for those exams. This past May, we had 238 students take 414 exams in 22 subject areas. 39% of the senior class took APs, 34% of the junior class, 14% of the 10th grade, and 8% of 9th grade. We have 1 AP class at the 9th grade level. Okay. Exam score percentages, which are up a little bit over last year. We had 9% of our students with perfect 5, with a score of a perfect 5. 27% of exam scores were 4 or 5, and 54% of them were 3, 4, or 5. Colleges usually look at a score of 3 or higher as a passing score and possibly eligible for college credit. Depends on the school, so it varies, but traditionally that's what schools look at, a 3 or higher. Okay, next slide shows you the 5-year trend. Okay, so this is the percentage of total AP students with scores of 3 or higher. So you'll see we had a rise in 2020. 2020 was a different test at home. Everyone was on remote. It was a different format. It was a take-home test, it was. Then last year we had a little bit of a dip. I'm happy to see us returning back up to about where we were in 2018, just shy of that, close to where we were in 2019. So I'm hoping that this is a good sign, but pleased with this performance last May. Next slide. The next few slides here show you the subject score comparisons and show you the trend over 3 years. Again, that 2020 year being the year that the students took the test at home. Okay, but you'll see the mean score of each exam on the next few slides. And then you have subject score distribution. What you're seeing here are only the exams that had more than 10 students. Otherwise, it would be too few to report. But this information shows you at what level did the students score, how many scores of a 5, how many scores of a 4, how many scores of a 3, 2, and 1 of the tests that I can share with you. Okay. And then the participation, the subgroup participation in AP, data over 5 years. slightly down in Black and Hispanic, just tiny bit up in multiracial and white. Okay, we did have some AP scholars this year. We had a total scholars 48. We had 33 AP scholars, 8 AP scholars with honor, and 7 AP scholars with distinction. So we're pleased to see that performance. Recognize these students. Okay, SAT. This is the results for the cohort class of 2022, the class that just graduated. Okay, this gives you a brief information about the SAT and the areas that it tests in. You can advance, please. And one more slide, please. Okay, here are the total group scores. That's the first thing you see there on the left. You're looking at the total group, meaning everyone who took the SAT for the class of 22 across the nation, globe. New Jersey scores, and then the high school, our high school. So for overall score, total group was 1050, New Jersey was 1079, and OTHS was 1113. For the reading test, we had reading and writing. The total group was 529, the state at 543, and Ocean Township at 561. And for math, total group at 521, New Jersey at 537, and Ocean Township High School at 552. And before anyone asks, I can add, but New Jersey, and I think it must be due to rounding, did report their scores 543 and 537, which does add up to 1080, but they did report their overall score as 1079. I triple checked it. It must be due to rounding of some sort, but I thought I was losing my mind.
Poor man.
But so I did double check it. But we're very pleased to see this. And if the next slide will show you that same performance over 5 years, that overall score. And if you look, last year we were at 1112. That was below the state last year. We're slightly up at 1113 this year, but above the state performance. You'll see our performance over the last 5 years, 1127, 1089, 1102, 1112, 1113. Looking at Ocean Township.
Like the 50th percentile, or is it, you don't know what the percentile?
I'm not sure. I don't want to speak.
No, I mean, the percentile of the SATs, the actual score national. If not, I understand that's our average, but how does the 1113 compare nationally as a percentile?
I'm not sure. I can check though. Okay. Next slide. This is just some information about the graduation assessment requirements because they continue to change. Okay, we did believe that our 11th grade students would have to pass the New Jersey graduation proficiency assessment to graduate high school. They took that last March. In July, the governor came out and changed that assessment to a field test. So the students took the test last year thinking they would need it to graduate. In the end, it is going to be used as a field test. The results should be out shortly this month, and I will be presenting those results once they're out within 60 days. Also, the students, well, let me stick with this. So that is no longer a graduation requirement. The class of 2023 does not have an assessment graduation requirement. All other graduation requirements are in place, okay? If you go to the next slide, the classes of 24 and 25, however, we are under the impression that this March, when we take the New Jersey graduation proficiency assessment in grade 11, that will in fact be a graduation requirement for our 11th grade students. And if and only if they take that test, will they then be given an opportunity, if they do not pass, to meet their graduation requirement through another pathway, which is explained here. Okay, that's just some information for parents to have. I like to include that in my presentation. And as I just said, the GPA results should be out later this month. And once we have them, although it was a field test and does not count towards the student's graduation, we will present those results to you and to the public, probably in about a month or two. Next slide, and the Start Strong assessment, which we did again just take this September, is used to really in the same way that the NJSLA was used. It is used to assess grade level expectations. We took it this September. It was assessing last year's standards for each student. we will have those results as well, probably late this late this fall, and I'll present those to you in the winter months. Okay, and I have that on the next slide.
That's the one that families already have, correct?
No, the families have these. The NJSLA results came out in early September, and we mailed those home.
Our teachers have to start strong.
Okay.
Not the families will get it later this fall.
Do you have a question, John?
When Kelly's done.
Our district, we have the Start Strong results. I believe that most of the supervisors are sharing them with teachers in October meetings. So I don't want to say that every teacher right now is in possession of his or her results, but they will be. Just finished that test. We're actually still finishing up makeups, but the administration of the full class has taken place. We're working on makeups right now for students who may have missed or been absent. Okay. Should I, let me just go. I think there's just a few more slides. And I've talked about this throughout the presentation, what we do with this information, how we interpret it, how we look through it, what type of programming we provide, what intervention services. They're listed on the next slide. These are just a few, not all. But all of the different things that we try to do once we get this information and how we line this up with the many things that we do internally as well. Local assessments, classroom teacher assessments, and how we try to align, how did we do with marking period averages versus grade level expectations on state assessments versus benchmark testing. All of those things are just all the different pieces of the puzzle that we use to help deliver targeted instruction to our students in the way that they need it personally and individually. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to ask a question?
How many, because I've only been here for a year, right? But it seems as though there's a lot of assessments, there's a lot of surveys, there's a lot of testing, right? There's a lot of these things.
Every once in a while, we throw in some instruction.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what I mean, how many things are we required to do? I mean,
Too many.
you just highlighted it in your presentation that the new GPA requirement is or Start Strong. One of them overlaps with what we're already doing for SLA. So, I mean, how many of these things are we doing a year? And it feels like we're putting out fires, right? It feels like we're running from one fire to the next. And are we?
I think we would all agree that there's probably a little bit too much standardized testing going on. You know, I think the general consensus certainly was, you know, you look at Start Strong, that was supposed to be a one-year thing last year when you didn't have the SLA.
Right, it replaced the NJSLA because we did not
Yeah.
deliver that the year, but we did not administer that the year before. It was still the middle of the pandemic and we did not have those results. So the state implemented Start Strong and it made sense. It was evaluating last year's data and letting us know where the learning gaps were and what type of acceleration programs we had to put in place. As Dr. Stefanko said, we did not anticipate having to do it again this fall since we had NJSLA data. However, we did, and so we did. And you know, we'll look at that data piece. We think that we have other data pieces that are as strong or stronger. So I think that may be one that we don't put as much stock in. It's a one-period test. It's somewhat quick. I think there's an attitude towards it doesn't mean much. So it's always hard to know whether or not students have put forth their best effort. I think sometimes you can say that they have, and in some cases they do not. But we try to emphasize our local benchmarks, which are the Lincoln benchmarks, which are predictive of NJSLA performance. And those we can give throughout the year as we're leading up to the NJSLA and then these results. And of course, the DLM, which is part of that package, the NJSLA, the access scores, which are very important for us to see how we're doing with our ELO progress and if our instruction and our approach is working or not. And AP and SAT is a rite of passage almost. So certainly we provide those as well.
Just want to give some kudos to all of the teachers that have to do the testing and still manage to plan and teach around all of that. And especially, I was happy to see scores in AP Lang and AP Lit had gone up, and our verbal SAT has gone up. So, I mean, this is what it's all about ultimately. When gets to the end of high school and you have to show it on AP and SAT, even though many schools are not taking SAT scores, students still need to take that seriously. And I think our language arts teachers are doing a phenomenal job, along with all of the other teachers, math, science as well. So, right, having to test, plan, teach all at the same time.
It's a hefty
Hefty.
lift for teachers today.
It is.
It absolutely is. There's no question about it. And I commend them for not only doing the work, but also transforming through the process and accepting that perhaps the way we have done things may not be working and we need to change the way that we're doing them. And the teachers come ready to do that with open minds, and they see the progress and they feed off of each other with the excitement and the enthusiasm of making gains with students where perhaps years past they did not know how to make gains, and they are starting to realize that and feel that, and they just come with more energy and more enthusiasm and more of a commitment to helping each individual student close any learning gaps that they may have experienced through COVID, meet with success on academic grade level expectations, and also develop and flourish their strengths, their interests, their career paths, so that when they move through the levels and they're in the intermediate school and the plethora of electives that are there that are it's still developing there, and then at the high school, which just has probably too many elective courses right now for students. I mean, it is tremendous what students can do at that high school level. And I think our teachers in those younger grades are really just working to get students to have a love of school, a love of learning that can be applied to any content area, any career path that they choose as they move up through our grade levels here.
Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I had some comments on the AP scores. I think last year's scores weren't as good as this year's. So I'm super excited to see that we have made positive gains. I do recall last year when I said the scores were abysmal, and some folks took umbrage to that. So there are still a few abysmal scores here, but the percentages of ones that actually improved, I would love to see because I didn't crunch the math. I'm sorry. I feel like you're totally the expert on that. Is there a way to find out to see how much percentage, all of our classes went? Because even though I might not be happy with some 1.9s or some 2.3s, if it's higher than it was last year, like with that, I should be happy about that. And that's something that I'd love to see. Like, did we increase all of our AP scores by 12%, by 5%? Because
Overall, you mean? Or individual subjects?
Or in some, yeah, I don't want to give you a math problem. Maybe it's something I can do at home, but I think that might also be like a nice way to tout maybe to our students or to our teachers and parents, like, because I'm looking at some of these that are in the ones as an average, and that sounds bad. That sounds horrible. It's almost like embarrassing for some of these, but then when you consider that it's gone up, I would rather, maybe even promote that or say like we're making these gains. I think that's something to celebrate perhaps.
I know I'm going to take back what I said before. I don't like to sugarcoat things, and I don't. And I can appreciate seeing a score like a 1 and questioning what went wrong there. However, it may also be a student who was not on path to take an AP class, who took the chance and showed the commitment and took the class, and we have many of those students, and they are better for it because they put themselves through the rigor of a college level course while they were still in high school. And sometimes that is the reason behind a score. There are other reasons behind scores. Certainly, I'm not saying that a 1.5 average is something to celebrate. I'm not. But sometimes there is a story behind that about a student who challenged themselves, and that is something to celebrate. So I just caution everyone in interpreting these scores, sometimes it's more than just an average.
In light of that was going to be a follow-up question that I think last year we discussed, like, didn't a lot of kids, if by the time the AP comes in May, I think you take the May exam, right? You know where you're going, your school's not even going to take it, or you're a B student, maybe you'll get a 3 or you're going to aim for a 3. So a lot of students.
There are a lot of
didn't-
factors,
There are some
right.
that didn't try, didn't, because they knew they weren't,
Mhm.
it wasn't gonna be applied to, do we ever look into that? Like, 'cause like you said, I bet you some of these
We do.
lower scores
We
were
absolutely
kids
do.
that blew it off. And
We do. And so that is a group that we survey. We do
Yeah.
talk to the students. We ask them to the degree that they took this with seriousness, did they know? And we constantly hear, I'm already into a school, my school doesn't accept AP scores. Many students do it for the course on their transcript.
Yeah.
And they're more concerned about their final average for their GPA calculation and their class rank than they are about their score. But I also don't like to say that we then we just accept that and move on. We continue to try to work. Last year, we dove in with some of the subject areas where we're not happy with the results. We sent a few teachers to more professional development. We did, supervisors had monthly meetings with teachers about how the progress was going, how they felt, something would give some practice tests. What were the results? What sort of support do you need? What do the students need? Do we need other resource materials to help students study, prepare, all of those different things? So I think, again, the scores represent different things, but we absolutely do get that feedback. We've gotten it year after year. And in some cases, we do hear from students that they were not concerned at all about the exam. They were far more concerned about their transcripts.
Okay, and Ms. Bowman, if I can just remind the board, and we say this every year, but just as a reminder, we require students, all students, to test, which is not typical of many high schools. So many kids who perhaps in other schools who would be the one or the two may choose probably far more not to take the test than take it. And so those results are going to be skewed to the test takers. Our results are a product of every single solitary student in the classes. So naturally, when you test everyone, your overall averages are going to be lower, typically. That doesn't mean we should settle for that, and I agree with that 100%. But if you have a class of 20 kids and every student in there takes the test, compared to a class of 20 kids where only 10 of the students take the test, perhaps those 10 being your highest performers, you're going to get, a very different picture of those classes when, if all of the kids in both classes would have taken that, regardless of the school, you may have seen very, very similar results. So just keep that in mind.
what are the best practices? If you say like other schools don't require you, are we in the minority by requiring? Because also these are expensive.
I
these
think more
classes.
and more districts, I do, well, this is anecdotal. I think we are in the minority in requiring, but I think more and more schools are really trying to provide incentives and ways for students to take the test as opposed to not.
I was just going to say, I can't speak to where we fall with other districts. I have some narrative information, but not data. But at $96 a test, I think if we were to ask students to pay or not require them to take it, I think what we do here for our students and for the students who may have asked to be part of the program or that we pushed into the program, I do believe we changed the course of their life because they've had this opportunity to take this college level course in our high school. And I wouldn't want to do anything that would deter a student from taking the class or limit our participation. Because I really do think, although annually I may have to stand here and take some hits for these overall scores, I am 100% certain that there are students who are better off because we did this the way we do it, and that their success in life, college, career, whatever the case may be, is enhanced because they had this experience. So I wouldn't want to do anything that would deter a student from taking an AP class at Ocean Township High School.
And I think you see that when the school performance reports come out and we see our college retention, first of all, our college acceptance rates, and our college retention rates, that our students are overwhelmingly in school 16 months after graduation, 2 years after graduation. That is a product of the challenge of so many kids of challenging themselves in these courses, not so much a product of the grade they get on the test or the score they get on the test.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
just want to say that, first of all, thanks for this presentation, and thanks for going through 943 slides in the period of time. It was really great. I do want to say that, at the end of the day, it's it's a tough equation. You know, we're trying to put a lot of things to math and a lot of things to science, but it, you know, it is kids that we're trying to develop, right? And, you know, kids development has a lot of variables to it. And there's some things that are things you want to measure, things you can't measure, things you can achieve, things you can't achieve, right? So I just appreciate that every year we're trying to figure out different ways to develop the whole student as we're trying to develop them. And this is, you know, one vector to how that's going. So, and it's an important vector, right? But it should also be kind of recognized that there's many other factors that kind of go into this. We're not manufacturing widgets, right? We're trying to manufacture people, right?
And if I can just add to it, it's funny, I was having this exact conversation today, that the educational model is in fact built on the assembly line. That is how American education system was developed, you know, through the Industrial Revolution. It's the ideology that developed the American education system. And it was basically, here it is, and, you know, quality control went through, and, you know, if you were academically minded, you went here, and if you weren't academically minded, you know, you got pulled off the line and put in this corner, and you went in a different direction. And I think we've learned well over the years that it can't be an assembly line for just that reason. We're in the people business. We're not dealing with inanimate objects. We're dealing with humans who have emotions and feelings and different interests and abilities, and it's what makes the education field, you know, one of the most, if not the most challenging professions on the planet.
Well, Kelly, thanks for,
Welcome.
you might have some questions that come from the, you know, the comment section. So you might want to hang here. for a
Sure, no
little bit.
problem.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Nicely done. Ms. Truba, did you have any more, Jim, on your,
I think that's enough.
you sure?
No,
Okay.
but I think that's enough.
Ms. Truba, do you have anything that you'd like to ask?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go to public comment. And all motions are posted on the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. First session will be open for public comments on any agenda items only. The second will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anybody from the public like to make a comment at this time? Anybody? Anybody? Oh, Steve. Steve, why don't you go and make a comment?
You're so corny.
Steve Clayton, Willow Drive. Comment and question. First, the comment, I want to applaud the inclusion of the AP. I know someone who went to Ocean High School, I wish we had that environment back then, because we definitely did not, and I would have taken more AP classes. In terms of, I know this might be digging deep into data, but the areas that we have improvement for in the, you know, and you saw, I know you got our numbers from previous years, and I'm wondering if it's learning loss through the pandemic, or is it because of more structural issues that might be more ocean specific? And one way I could tell is to look at the state data year over year. And is that something you do as well, where you look at the state data year over year and say, okay, like we declined, but the state increased, or vice versa?
We do, we look at all of that.
We do look at all of the data. Right now, we're in a year of comparing results because it's the first time in 2 years that we've taken the test. So we're really looking at current year data a little bit more deeply than trend data. But we do look at it.
Did you have any more things? Okay, thank you, Steve. Ms. Conway, anybody on the line like to make a comment at this time?
No, President Weinstein, there are no commenters.
Kelly, I was wrong. Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Conway. So at this time, we're going to approve our minutes. Irene?
Certainly. Move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with Board of Ed bylaw 0168 from our work meeting and executive session minutes, September 20th, 2022. And move to approve the meeting minutes from our regular meeting from September 20th, 2022. Are there any comments, changes?
Well, can we get a second?
Second.
I think Amy won that one.
John won that one.
John won that one.
No, I think
I'm gonna take it because Natalie's remote, so let me just go through and say, Ms. Beal?
Yes.
Were there any comments about it? No? Okay, all right.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Prolanis?
Yes.
Ms. Telerico?
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I guess Natalie, can you do financial management?
Yes, I can. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you great. Thank you.
All right. Okay, there are 7 items this evening. I have 3 for approval and 4 for discussion. 8.1, move to approve the use of facilities as per the attached memo dated October 11th, 2022. 8.2, move to approve in accordance with District Policy 6471 that central office administrators attend the NJSBA workshops October 24th to the 26th, 2022, as per the link below. The group rate is $2,100 for the Board of Ed and Administration, up to 25 people. The following people listed below from the central office may attend. 8.3, move to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan, Form M1, and the health and safety checklist in accordance with NJAC 6A:26A. Please see attached schedules, including the health and safety checklist for the administration building, only as a representative sample. 8.4, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the renewal of the cooperative purchasing program for gasoline, diesel, and number 2 fuel only. Sorry, number 2 fuel oil, HCESC Fuel 2223 through the Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission effective 10/8/22 through 10/8/23. 8.5, Board of Education and Administration will discuss an interlocal vehicle sale agreement with Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission as attached. 8.6, Board of Education and Administration will discuss $750 monetary donation by Amy Hover, staff member, to benefit the students of the Township of Ocean School District in accordance with the attached letter. And finally, 8.7, Board of Education and Administration will discuss the donation of art supplies by Joe and Jody Madigan of Oakhurst for the visual arts students and teachers, as well as the art club at Ocean Township High School. See the attached list. May I have a second on 8.1 through 8.3?
Second.
Is that you, Ms. Prolanis?
It was.
Yes, it was.
You want to do discussion first, Jeff, or do we want to?
Yeah, we could do discussion on, I think we can vote on 8.1 to 8.3. Right. Is there any discussion on 8.1 to 8.3 anybody wants to have?
Doesn't 8.3 says discussion?
It was,
No,
it was
it's changed.
changed. I have to get that to the county office by this week.
Oh, okay.
This is the typical schedules that we do every year.
Anybody? No? Okay, I think we can take a vote on 8.1 to 8.3. Thanks.
Ms. Beal?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Prolanis?
Yes.
Ms. Telerico?
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Motion carried.
So on 8.4 to 8.7, did you have anything you wanted to add around these? No? Okay. Were there any questions?
For 8.6, do you anticipate option 1 will exhaust the donation?
Yes,
Okay, and it will be equally distributed?
it won't be. They're specific around, if you look at how the donor wants it done, it's going to be relative to free and reduced for lunch program.
No, I mean for number 1, since you anticipate it will be exhausted.
Yes.
For number 1, will it be equally distributed
8.6,
for number 1?
it'll be based on the need. Like right now, we have some children that they have lunch balances and they just became free and reduced. Is that, so.
I think-
No, so like, for example, she said $750. So
Right.
if there are 50 students, will it be divided equally amongst the 50 students, just making up a number?
We're gonna look at, in other words, for the free and reduced, it's gonna look at if anybody has balances and we're gonna try to
Wipe them out.
wipe them out for the ones that have them. If that doesn't clear everything, then we'll go down to, reduced and we'll handle
I
that.
think I'm sorry, if I could just add, I think, Sean, what I'm hearing I think what we try to do in these types of situations is we do things equitably as
Right.
opposed to equally.
Right.
Right? So we look at where the percentages are and where different schools are and spread them out equitably amongst the schools based on populations and things like that.
Right, so in this
And based on
case,
percentage of
this
free
is
and
the,
reduced lunch from the school.
what it seems like, this is the one time where there's a specific group, I'll say, that for option one that would receive it. So I guess this is the one time I don't see equity balancing it out. It seems like it would be equally instead of equitably.
Because some families could get $200 and one kid could get $12.
Well, it depends on-
Exactly.
It depends on
So,
what the situation is in the school, obviously, right? So,
But-
some schools may have none that fall into
Right,
this
exactly,
category.
because they're
Some may
they're already
have-
getting everything.
Right, so
free.
it wouldn't be distributed equally amongst
Right.
amongst the many.
none,
Right.
it would be equally distributed. So like Alex's point, if someone has, remember the balance sheet that we saw? And someone had some crazy, bet, like $700. So does that $700 get wiped out hypothetically, and
I
then
think we would
$50
look to
is
try to impact as
distributed?
many students
Yeah.
as possible.
Okay, that's
Even
my
if
point.
even if that meant it didn't completely wipe out. We're not gonna wipe out one student and leave
Okay.
100 still with the balance.
The goal is to distribute as
Right, but it
amongst
might-
as many
right,
students as
But I don't
possible.
know that it's going to be equally distributed. It might be more.
As
maybe a
many students
combination
as
of the two.
possible, I guess. more
Yeah,
so.
it's gonna be
Okay.
based on when the free
Equitably-
and reduced
It's gonna be equitably
applications
equal.
were done, right, and how much was
Equitable.
good.
Or
Okay.
equally equitable. One of the two.
As many
Either
students as
equitably
possible is
equal
the
or
main,
equally equitable.
is the main point. Okay, what you said.
Oh, John, sorry.
How many of our students are regularly in a lunch debt situation that prevents graduation?
Very few.
Very few, yeah.
None.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
They
not an issue
graduate,
that we
they just
have.
leave their balances.
Well,
No, we
I just don't-
actually,
I don't wanna hear that.
we do work with students to pay off their balances before graduation, but we'll do payment plans and all that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes when it comes down to it, and once again, if we're talking about free and reduced lunch kids compared to not, I mean, there's different factors, but it is a rare situation where we would not have someone graduate as a result of some of these things.
does that happen to Zoo Venue?
Have someone not graduate as a result of it?
Yeah.
No,
Okay, that's all I want to hear. Thank you.
Not for that.
And
reason.
everybody gets a meal,
Not for that reason.
Any,
not feed.
Understood, yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It would be a very,
good to hear. Thank you.
anything about any other topic? Alex?
I just wanted to say, for the Madigans to donate the art supplies. I don't know if everyone saw the pictures. I mean, that's hundreds of dollars, it looks
Yeah,
like, that
nice.
they're
Very
nice.
donating, so. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, very nice.
I'm sure that our teachers love it. It's
I
awesome.
saw them all. Saw them. But thank you.
Oh,
I believe I saw them on the.
Oh,
on the list. Participant people.
well, Joe and Jody, we thank you for your nice donation. As well as Amy as well. We thank you for your nice donation too.
Absolutely.
Anybody have anything else for? Nope. Okay, I think we can move on to number 9, instruction, education, and student activities.
There are 3 items for this evening for our consideration. 9.1, move to approve the attached memorandum dated October 6, 2022, RE staff professional development activities in accordance with our district policy 6471 and NJAC 6A:23A-7. The attendance at said activities is fiscally prudent and will promote the delivery of instruction and/or further the efficient operation of the district. 9.2, move to approve the following trip request from high school and for high school and middle school students. Destination West Long Branch to the Student Learning Conference with the chaperones Allison Conley, Karen Dunn, Lauren Kelly, and James Nottingham. And 9.3, Board of Education and Administration will discuss the requests of non-athletic club advisors to change the names of the following clubs in accordance with the attached memorandum dated September 19th, 2022. The African American Culture Club to Deeply Rooted and SAD to Peer Leaders. May I get a second on 9.1 and 9.2?
Second.
I think we can, is there any discussion on 9.1 and 9.2? Anybody wants to have? Okay, I think we can take that.
Ms. Beal,
on that.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Lamas,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella, Mr. Weinstein,
Yes. Natalie, did you hear that? Or,
I'm sorry, I was having technical issues. Yes, I'm a yes. Sorry.
that's a, that's a yes.
Yeah,
carries.
Great, thanks. Any discussion on the club name changes? Is there any back, is there any?
Well, I think the rationale's in there.
Okay,
I have a quick question. Why is this coming in front of us? Why can't the teachers and the schools just do this on their own? Why do they have to?
Some of these are formally in the
bias.
contract, in our collective bargaining contract, so I think it just formalizes it so that there's no confusion.
Okay.
anybody have any comment about it or anything they want to talk about it? Okay, okay, great. I guess personnel, Ms. Palamas?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move items 10.1 through 10.24. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Truba?
Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
We're voting to
on
Personnel.
10.1
Personnel.
to 10.24.
24, yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Palamas.
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
yes.
Mr. Weinstein.
Yes. Okay, public relations, Alex.
Wait, we didn't do 25 and 26.
Oh, that was,
We did
we already
upstairs.
had
We
that
did
discussion in,
Discussion
in executive
upstairs.
session.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So number 11,
11.1,
Yeah.
move to approve a resolution honoring Dave DeRouche. Please see attached resolution. May I get a second on 11.1?
Second.
Ms. Truba?
Yes. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Palamas.
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes,
Mr. Weinstein.
yes. Jim, would you like to? talk
Yeah,
about that?
I just communicated with Dave's family this week, just to kind of pinpoint the logistics for Sunday. So obviously his day is this Sunday at coincidentally DeRouche Park over in the Wanamassa area. So it starts at 1 o'clock. I think it's my understanding that the mayor and council members would speak first, of course, and then they would turn it over to board representatives to read and present the resolution. So I think any member of the board who wishes to attend, probably just let Mr. Weinstein know and probably be there at 1 o'clock. And my guess is our portion, formal portion would be no more than within the first half hour.
Right. So it's probably, we're decided if we read the resolution or not, or just present the resolution.
I think it would be nice to read it.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's not crazy.
And
long.
then you're gonna tell me if we have people who want to say a few words from the district.
Well, I think they're just gonna come.
I'm just gonna come.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not taking a survey.
Okay.
They're just gonna come.
Okay, yeah, so just let me know. It's really just just to know, there's no, we're not having a meeting or a forum or anything like that. It's like if we were all at a football game or something, right? So just to be aware, okay?
Just to present.
Do we have a nice way to print this up
Yeah, well, it's gonna be.
With
Yeah,
that-
we have it in a frame.
with this frame and a seal? Okay.
Okay, I think you can go on. Alex.
11.2?
Yeah.
11.2, Board of Education and Administration will discuss a uniform state memorandum of agreement between the Township of Ocean Board of Education and the Township of Ocean Police Department for the 2022-2023 school year. The signed agreement will be submitted to the County Superintendent of Schools and the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office pending approval by the board. Please find the attached table of mandatory reports to law enforcement and below the link to the MOA in its entirety. May I get a second on 11.2? Oh, wait, this is
No,
discussion. My bad.
discussion.
My bad.
Oh, discussion.
Thought I was doing Nobody commented on it. Did the first one without any questions.
You did a great job.
That was like the first time in
Great job.
18 months. Yep.
So now can you read 11.3 and
Well, we
11.4?
do
Or do we have a
11.4?
discussion?
We
No, we
talked
do,
about
we
it all.
have them all, then we have a discussion.
See, I did it wrong. All
Plan, Alex.
right.
You're doing good.
11.3, Board of Education Administration will continue to discuss the Board of Education goals and objectives for the 2022-2023 school year. 11.4, Board of Education and Administration will discuss the Winslow Township Board of Ed Ad hoc Citizens Advisory Committee documents. Please see the link below to view the documents.
Okay, so on 11,
For 11.2, I'm assuming that all of those things are required by law for us to, this is just formality pretty much.
Yeah, we do this every year, and there's no changes to this year's memorandum compared to last year's. So what happens is that we meet each year with Chief Sorrentino and other representatives. We go over any changes. We, just speak to some of the reporting requirements, and we did that a couple of weeks ago, and so this is really just signing off at this point. And, we submit this to the county superintendent, the prosecutor's office.
For bias related act, is that another term for a hate crime?
All hate crimes are bias related. Not all bias incidents are hate crimes necessarily.
Okay.
Not all rise to that level of being hate crime.
You can educate me on that later.
So it's within, it's kind of in the same category.
That's great.
okay, cool. So on the board goals, a number of you gave me some board goals to kind of put in here. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to look through it. But one of the things that I was talking with Mary Ann about board goals, and the board goals that we want to put in, we really want to frame them up in a way that we actually can have control over that, right? So that's why most of these say things like support or determine, or it's things that are in our control. Otherwise, they become goals that we're expecting somebody else, they become district goals, right? So we don't want to confuse the district goals with the board goals. So that's why I went through a little bit of wordsmithing on some of these. Just generally from what I've seen and what we've done in the past is we've tried to keep the goals at a relatively chapter level, and keep it maybe to 6 to 7 kind of major things that we can look at. So, I like to figure out how we can broker this discussion to get to the right spot. Okay. Some of the goals that might be a little bit too detailed for us having a board goal, that maybe can be put into some other goal. So I guess I'd like to know everybody's opinion when we were kind of going through this.
Just so I understand the two documents, is the document with the highlights in it, is that
The
the raw
suggestions,
suggestions, and then the second document is
last year's,
goals that were
right,
proposed and approved?
right. And what I did was I highlighted the
The
grays.
themes.
I highlighted ones that were common.
Right,
So like one gray had another gray, and a yellow had a yellow, and so I try to kind of combine them. I'm not sure that's valuable. It just showed that at least at least some of us were thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
There is overlap, that's what I
Yeah.
noted too, so maybe the ones that overlap could be.
yeah.
our
And when I
focus.
talked to Mary Ann, that first one where it says support programs and funding to achieve the district strategic goal, that's probably, to me, that's probably like a fundamental goal we should have, right? We just approved it. Now we should at least say to ourselves, we're going to support the programs when they're presented to us. That was one that I thought. I thought the hiring the superintendent was probably a goal by July 1 that we should probably make as a board goal that we can control. The other things, we can all kind of debate, but yeah.
I think the one I disliked the least was the hiring of the superintendent, because that's a given. I mean, we can't function, and isn't that part of our charge? So why do we, dare I say, waste one of our 6 goals on, there's no question we're gonna hire a superintendent, so why do we have to waste?
I'm not sure if that's
Fair statement.
I'm not sure if that's a given. we went through we go through the process of hiring other positions and it doesn't necessarily occur, so, but.
I think I understand Alex's point. I think the goal by July 1st is obviously a goal, but we're going to hire a superintendent. Perhaps the superintendent may need to give 60 days. That's
Yeah.
out of our control. So we can't say that it will be by July 1, but I don't want to personally put a goal, hire a superintendent, because we will.
Everybody can kind of discuss that if you want, I mean.
No, I was just saying that's one, if, I'm only looking at the highlighted ones, because you said that they were pretty common.
Well, they were, first of all, if you read them more closely, you could make the case that some of the other ones are more common. I probably got a little timed out on doing color work. So I got a little timed out myself reading through those, so.
But I mean, if we were to at least start with those, can we dwindle those down as a process?
I can make
You said
another, I can make a
to-
list that kind of shortens it up. I do think there was one element that I think is important. That kind of comes out, but doesn't come out exactly, maybe. I think the whole idea of recruiting, retaining our staff, recruiting and retaining good staff is probably supporting the retaining and recruiting of our staff, right, is probably an overarching thing that we might want to have as a things. As I was looking through these, I didn't really see one that kind of popped out. There was more about recruiting a diverse population, but it didn't really talk about how the whole staff, how we want to make sure we're recruiting and retaining, our staff. So I think that one might be one to have.
And that can include the
That
superintendent
can,
in ways,
yeah,
like
that-
if we're recruiting and
Yeah.
May I have a
recruiting and
suggestion?
retaining, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm
you
sorry.
can keep
No,
talking, it's all right.
Recruiting and retaining staff that aligns with the goal of getting a more diverse population, you can kind of
Yeah, I can
put that-
melt it in, yeah.
mount that all in.
I can
There
melt
also
that.
is a lot of, where I would have had a highlight if I was highlighting. There's a lot of, support programs, support methods, and, going around student achievement and student growth that I think could all be put into a goal that I would think that a lot of people here, at least, want to see that, and that, there might be a way to write, right? I mean, I would say like support programs to engage parents, support methods to, just like, I feel like there's a lot of ways to support our families and our students to I feel like a lot of that can be maybe put into one simple statement that would encompass all of those things.
Okay, send me that statement.
I will look at it and try, yeah.
Well, rather than,
Oh, I'm sorry.
rather than put you on the spot to do it now, may I suggest that we go through the list individually and pick 5 that we think are important to us, maybe bring them back to you, and then you can call them down, or we can work them over, but to look at all of them and say yes, no, yes, no. I think we should look at them a little more carefully,
well,
pick
what-
5 that are
okay, what-
important,
what-
whether it's the
Yep.
sale of the building
Yep.
or.
Yeah, why don't we do
programs.
something in parallel, right? Why doesn't everybody you feel free to send me your suggestions on what you think those are, okay? In parallel, I will take what's already kind of highlighted and colored enough and figure out how to combine those, okay? And we'll do those two things in parallel, okay? And we'll see how those things mesh up. Yep.
Sounds good.
Sort of like guidance, like I want these goals to be specific, attainable, time oriented, all the good things, right? But without overstepping on the administration's job, right? But like, I mean, I have some specific goals I would like this board to pursue. And how do we differentiate between what is going to be stepping on what the administration's responsibilities are and the responsibilities of the board?
Well, I think generally, we're more of the what and then more of the how. So if
I were to say, I would like to have a universal pre-K program implemented in Ocean Township by 2024, that would not be part of this, right? Because we're trying to find out the board goals for the
school year now through June 30th.
The 23.
20.
Yeah, 23.
Right,
yeah.
right. Now through,
So if I
right.
said 23, that would be an acceptable goal.
That would, yeah, I think
As
you
long
would
as the
write, I
board-
think you'd write, I think you'd write, you want to support the expansion.
Yeah,
of-
yeah, yeah.
Right, that kind of thing, right.
Okay,
Right, so we're the what, they're the how, right? We say
Got it.
that and then they're the how,
okay, got it.
okay?
Thank you for the guidance.
Anything else about this? Was this, I think this was helpful. It was nice to see.
Colors are
Yeah, I
great.
appreciate everybody. By the way, on my laptop, that pink almost burns my retina. But I could not find another, because I couldn't find another color that stood out from the other colors, right? So I was willing to forfeit my 2200 vision.
That's
dedication.
On my screen, huh?
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the Winslow thing. Okay, so I actually did a fairly extensive search on community advisory and citizen advisory committees. And I read a bunch of them. And the Winslow one was the one that I thought had the best framework from which we could kind of work from. And also I looked in their website and saw some of their supporting material. I also spoke to the president of the Board of Education of Winslow and asked her her thoughts on this committee and the process they went through and all those kind of things. And if she thought that the meetings were, you know, too frequent and all those, and that kind of stuff. And she gave me some really good insight. I think the bottom line on the insight that I got was one, I believe she's happy that they did this. The thing that we're gonna wanna do is really appreciate, I liked how they wrote what they wrote, which made it be an advisory board, somebody who's kind of give us input to the board and also acting as ambassadors for us to their community, right? That's how I must have read through, not just in New Jersey, like 20 of them in different states, right? So I thought it was an excellent, I thought those was really more on target. The one thing that I think happens on this is that we're gonna have to be very clear on the role of the individuals there, what the expectations are on their suggestions to us, right? And also spending some time and educating them on what our authority is as a Board of Education. And just because everybody thinks it's a good idea, doesn't mean it's a good idea. Again, we do the what, not the how, right? So I think we'll just have to make sure we kind of do that in a good kind of way. There was also I thought they had some good pieces in there about not only the number of people, but also, you know, any up to 4 board members can come. That way it's not a meeting. And so we can figure out how people rotate in and rotate out and how they're responsible for it. Just on a comment about how often to do this. She did make me feel like having it more often than not is actually a better pace, because, you know, people have discussions and then if you wait too long, everybody has to be retaught everything that just happened, and so you kind of lose momentum. So I mean, that's why they have it down every month, and I think they take off the summers, if I remember. So so I think where we left it was that we were gonna talk about whether we should do this or not. I think we said that we would kind of go through this process, right? And say we just needed to kind of frame it up. So I think what I like to do, if it's okay, I like to kind of turn that to the policy committee. And if they felt like you could want to tighten this up for
Don't
us.
plagiarize now.
You can, I did, by the way, I did ask her if we could plagiarize, and she said you're more than happy to plagiarize.
good.
right?
There you go.
Yeah, more than happy. I wouldn't use their logo though, and just put Ocean Town, that would probably be.
No
like-
worries.
Yeah.
We're supposed to meet soon. We just have to nail down a day and time.
Yeah, and there is, by the way, there is some wording in there that, there is some things in that policy, which I would not be in favor of. There's some, it's probably maybe a little too prescriptive for me on some things, but, you can look through that.
May I just ask what she said about the terms? You have like, or they have 1 to 2 year terms for these
Yeah,
advisory people. Is that too long? I mean, are people going to commit to a 2 year term to serve on this ad hoc committee?
I don't,
Did she give you any feedback on that?
she was, I think that, like anything else, people sign up. And then there's probably a group of people who are there, all the time, and some people can't make it, and I don't think that was anything that. The thing I was asking her is, was that detracting from people wanting to be on it? And she said no. And so that's really more what I was thinking about if you told them that. So, I mean, I don't know if we would do it. I would leave that up for us to have just a discussion about what it was. I'm not tied to any kind of time frame or anything like that. But
So one of the portions in there talks about the committee adhering to a regulation policy. So will the policy come before
the what policy, I'm sure.
it says here, this is their page 2, under committee operation, that the committee will operate within the regulation specified.
There is a
regulation
policy document that is also more written up around this about.
Right, so then will we have I guess, which one's coming first, the chicken or the egg? So
I think this comes first because,
the policy.
no, I think what we're writing here comes first. And then I think we make a policy that fits what we want it to be. That's what I think.
Like we need to figure out what it is we want and then literally codify it in a policy.
Yes, that's what I
kind of.
think,
Okay.
yeah. I think we should start with the end result and then
Yeah.
work backwards, yeah. I mean, I read the policy, it's more like, it's at the discretion of the board if this committee exists or doesn't exist, it's like things like that, right? So,
Can we like set dates on this? Let's go for it.
I'm,
Can we have deadlines or, by X date, let's,
Well, they don't have a policy. Tracy Andrews said they're doing their policy committee when they get that date. I think that's-
Because then we have to set the time. Excuse me, I should have.
sure.
Because then we have to set the interview times and all that. So I think if the
Yeah.
policy ends up taking a little longer.
Yeah, I
We
think
wanna
there's some
run into
applications that they had and then, I spoke to her about how they do this. Depending on how many applicants you have, you can decide that you have a an interview process. And so it's probably a little bit more. I think if we start with this, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I meant. And
Yeah.
I would think you mean doing a policy about this would be months away from now, right? But aren't we gonna,
Yeah, I
Are we
think,
gonna
we should-
get the ball rolling and
I think
do
in
this?
my mind, what I would mind having is if we were having this written up and then we were actually have an application that we could decide, somewhere around December 1 through for the next 30 days or 45 days, we let people kind of apply
Mhm.
and not make it, decide what we want in the application, So I would think, Grace, I don't want to put any words in your mouth here, but is it somewhere like one of the meetings after Thanksgiving? We can have this done?
I mean, absolutely.
Okay,
I mean, I was just looking up, like years ago, at this point, was the New Jersey Foundation of Hope. And we had talked about the community response team and how that might be similar to this. Because it's very similar to what you're saying, but I was just wondering if we could have a discussion on that. I just brought it up though, so it's like 70 pages. For another time. That's
okay.
good.
To have it different or have it combined? into one?
Combined,
Okay.
because it's very similar.
Right.
But I had brought this up way before I was even elected back in 19, and it is very similar. So there's some good parts in both, and I like both of them. So maybe we can have a discussion about that. a
Okay.
later time.
Okay, cool.
I like your December 1st deadline. So can we put in December 1st for we should have
Yeah, I would
the
think. you-
version of Winslow's
my-
thing here,
my-
like
Yeah, my
a
guess. would-
Word doc.
My guess would be that we probably would want by mid-November to have a version that we can all look at and having this room
Yeah.
to kind of critique.
Not
So-
the policy, the
This write-up,
paper you're talking
this
about.
write-up,
Yes,
right.
Yep, mhm,
the similar thing that Winslow has, right?
I like that.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Let me see, where are we? We're at old business. Anybody
For old business.
have any old business?
I was just wondering where we are with the report from the construction and planning from those architects.
We were actually, Tina and I were talking about it earlier tonight. I was actually gonna grab you after the meeting
Okay,
to discuss. They were gonna be able to come next week. Unfortunately, Mrs. Perlamis is not gonna be here next week. So we're trying to see if we can, what I was gonna ask you was, if we can do a committee meeting on November 1st, if Tom's available before our meeting, like at 6, as long as exec isn't early or anything. And then we'd be able to talk about it in committee and then present to the board, whether it's us or Tom presenting in that meeting that night.
I mean, you don't.
Sorry, it's me, Jeff. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need exec at that. In not the next meeting, the meeting after. So just for planning purposes.
All right, so I'll talk with Ms. Truba and Grace, and I'll reach out to you and Denise. Maybe we'll have to do it over Zoom
Yes.
another day. My problem is that it's Atlantic City. So maybe that Thursday or Friday, we'll talk to Tom. I don't know if Tom will be back in the office on Thursday, but we'll find out.
I just have to know your schedules and then I'll coordinate with Tom.
Okay. So
Great.
we'll talk right after the meeting.
Tom's available on the 1st to come to the meeting.
Yeah, just make sure,
Present.
Okay, so if
when
we
you
do
gotta
a
have your,
committee- if we do a short committee before that, then he can come on November 1st.
Yeah,
We can
how-
do a-
you just give me your dates and I'll align with Tom.
okay, cool.
We'll discuss it here.
Anything else for old business? Alex,
I actually had a question for, I don't know if this is for Ms. Weldon. Do we pay for the AP exams for the magnet schools or the academies for those kids? We do not. Okay, and then
Alex, I didn't hear his question.
if we pay for the AP exams for those, 200 kids that go to the academies
Okay.
from our district?
Where do we
No.
get their scores?
That's a good point. My second question is the ISR letter that we got from the principals about our NJSLA scores. That was a paper form. Did I miss an electronic form? Did parents get an electronic form? Is there an intention to send that out or post that? Because that had like some long links that I thought would be helpful for parents. But typing it in is like crazy. I don't know if people know what I'm talking about. So
I'm
parents,
sorry, I wasn't,
So the
parents,
principal sent an
Yeah.
electronic letter that you could, that was hyperlinked.
oh, I didn't get.
That
the
was
electronic.
generic. It was not specific to you, but you would use then your paper score with your login information to
Okay.
get to your child's information electronically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that. Thank you. You're welcome. I probably didn't see it.
anything else for old business? Okay, anybody for new business?
I just wanted to congratulate Coach Klein for having 87 wins and becoming the winningest coach in Ocean Township this past weekend. As well, our team is 6-0 and they have a piece of the division right now, so it's really exciting. It is homecoming Friday, so for
Yes.
those of you that do not know, it's homecoming Friday night. And I just wanted to ask Dr. Spankowitz, I know that we normally we don't I don't want to say, well, we don't have sports teams come in, because they have their athletic awards and stuff. However, we have had coaches that have won Coach of the Year and other things come in for the board to speak to them. I obviously would say probably after season, because I'm sure people are busy, but I
we
would
had
just
thought
like to
about
put that.
After the season.
Yeah.
to do something like that during the season, some
Yeah,
people
no.
consider that. to be
Yeah, no,
bad-
no, we don't talk about
bad-
that.
bad karma, bad
Yeah.
juju.
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't.
And it's a good thing now, after he retires, he can stand on the sideline all he wants.
Thank you, Amy. Irene?
I was going to mention homecoming as well. It's wonderful to have everybody come out and
Yeah.
support our school. I have a question also. Are we involved with the Steam Tank Challenge this year? Do we have anybody in any of our schools entering?
I'm sure they'll do it. I mean, it's early in the process. You know, we did very well with it last year.
Yes, that's why I
At
wondered.
the convention,
Yeah.
or, workshop, we'll be honoring, the kids will be on this, the kids will be on
Kids will
display.
be on
down
display.
there.
The kids are
But,
going?
Yeah, I think it's early in that process this year, right? It's early.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
We're still,
Only because-
I think, I'm sure we'll have some kids involved, because we've had every year for the last several. but,
Yeah. And
just
it was
kinda
great to
early- it's
see them.
early in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for new business? Alex?
I just have two things. When we did the back to school night at the, I think it was, where was I with you?
Dow.
At Dow, Amy had this name badge that said board member in Ocean Township, whatever. And I was at a school board meeting for the state. I don't know if you could see it. This lady from Parsippany Troy Hills had a really nice brass one with her name and the school logo on it. And she wore that. I just think that would be kind of awesome if we all could get
Did
name
she have the-
badges.
Did she have the name Amy on it also? or-
No. No, I know, I
Okay.
checked. But it's had her name and it said, Board of Education. Would anybody be interested in that? Because I would be nice to,
Well, the
I mean, I
sec-
wrote my
well-
name on
well,
a
Alex, the second
stupid
day,
label.
the second day, I was there with Amy as well.
did you?
And, well, I ripped it off her lapel and
Okay.
I put Jeff on top, so.
With
So
Sharpie.
we have one that we can share with everybody, but maybe we should look at having for these kind of events to have something.
Well, I think we can, you have, what do you have? right?
No, no,
My
no.
picture was
No,
taken
no,
in
no,
Ms.
I don't,
Walden's
Ancient.
office.
not a,
They're old names.
not one we're printing ourselves. No, no,
A while back.
Years ago,
like a brass one, like a one.
Correct.
without your picture.
Yours is nice, but I
$10 or
mean,
$15.
who made that?
It's
Did the
just a
schools do-
laminated tag.
It's just a laminated tag that in
Yeah.
Miss Walden's office, my picture was taken when I first, it wasn't even Miss Walden. Actually, it was not Miss Walden at the time, but they took my picture. In fact, a couple years ago, I was like, when I was here for the orientation and they were taking the pictures, I was like, can I get a new one? And I didn't end up doing it, but that's
weren't
just what it
done-
is.
Mine wasn't done when you were superintendent. Mine was done. when
Mr.
you were
Lindsay.
superintendent.
Do you have one?
No.
Denise
Does
has
Denise
one?
have one?
They probably stopped it after.
John looks like he
Christina.
wants one.
I think. we
I have
have-
zero interest in having one, and if I get it, I will not wear it. Yeah.
Really? That surprises me.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
But
Okay.
if the board approves, I'm, good for you guys.
It was used more to get in and out of the schools during
Usually,
the
I think,
day.
When you were, if you were touring the school.
Yeah, that's what it was used
something
for.
like that,
Yeah.
To have them. I mean, it's certainly. not
All
a bad
right,
idea to
each
have
their
a-
own.
One that we
That's right,
create
that's
for
right.
you, whether you want to get brass,
I think that
it's
it's nice when you go to events like, I mean, I don't wear it hardly ever. I wear it to back to school night.
Yeah,
Maybe you would wear it to Spartan Scholar. I mean, I wouldn't wear
Yeah.
it to graduation just because I would be dressed, but
Yeah.
like maybe, but I'm just saying, like, it's not, or if I'm going in for a presentation, when I was doing interviews with Mr. Klinger's class, I think I
Mhm.
wore it then so that the kids would know my affiliation. So, but I don't, yeah, I mean, that's where had it taken. I don't know if you guys still.
It was an IT picture.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
we
it.
can make that
Exactly.
easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Upstairs, that's easy.
I'd compromise with the school ID one if that's easy to do
Probably
soon.
pull your pictures from the website.
How hard is it?
No,
School-
please don't use
school-
that photo.
Yeah, don't
Please
do
don't
it.
use that photo.
Oh, you could use.
No, no, that's
that.
I look like I like.
I
don't like mine
The
either.
school, the school ID.
You're not getting one, so don't worry about it.
I think we were,
You had something else?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have one other thing, Alex?
Yes, I had one other thing and let me pull it.
She wanted new
up.
cars put in our next contract.
So, I don't know if everybody saw in the chat, the donation that the Madigans gave us. Well, not, I did want to it was also awesome that the teacher gave us that donation. But Jody Madigan wrote, my mother-in-law would be pleased and honored to know students would be benefiting. She had a true passion for art and music. My husband was determined to make sure her supplies went to good use. And the high school and middle school, there's more to come. And she just told me during this meeting, they're donating 800 canvases.
Wow.
Like that's
That's awesome.
maybe even like a social media post or something.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's pretty amazing. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, any other new business? Nope. Okay, we'll go to public comment. Anybody from the public like to make a comment at this time? Anybody? Steve, anybody? No? Okay. Ms. Conway, anybody on the line like to make a comment?
No, there are no commenters, President Weinstein. We're all set.
Can I get a motion
Motion to
to?
adjourn.
Great, okay.
Wow.
Everybody have a good night. See you at homecoming. Yes, okay. Thanks,
It's the
Ms.
Greek
Conway.
festival that night.